Okay, so let's get started by discussing ways that you can develop illustration. So there are many ways that you can do illustration. The most important thing is to be creative, right? And use the tools that you are familiar with, and make sure that you are not complicating the way that you are communicating your findings by coming up with illustration that is too complex for people to understand. If you have difficulty explaining the illustration to your audience, then it's a red flag that you shouldn't even communicate, or you shouldn't show the illustration to your audience, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to effectively communicate the findings. And I always see the illustrations as icing on the cake, right? So the cake is the findings. The icing makes the cake presentable, attractive. And so all the illustration that you're going to develop, make sure that it's aiding the communication of the findings, but not impeding the understanding of the findings, right? So if it's not aiding, then don't think about developing any illustration. Always think about illustration as a way of helping with the communication of the findings, not impeding the understanding of the findings that you have. So let's start with the word cloud. So word cloud is a way of showing the kinds of words participants use and how many times. Let's try to one software that could be useful. Let me open it for you. I think I have it already open. Is when you go to wordclouds.com. That will help you to create a word cloud, right, for free. I always go to the classic site to develop my word cloud. So how are you going to do it? First of all, you have to decide the source of your data, right? What kind of data do you want the system to run on? So let's say you want to see the kinds of words participants 2 and 3, or let's select all participants and put them there and see what kind of words they use. So what I'm doing here, I'm trying to select question 5 to 9, so that those are not demographic information. So I want to select all of them, question 5 to 9 for each participant. So, and then put it in the system and see what I'm going to get. So when you select one of them, you click on File, and you go to Paste and Type, or Type Test. So when this window opened for you, you paste the first participant. So I'm going to also paste the second participant information. So let me paste the third participant too. You can see that I'm also including the questions that was asked. Sometimes you can, eliminate the questions and only focus on participant responses. Because of time, I'm just copying the questions and also participant response all together and pasting them. But if you want to get a very, very accurate results, then make sure that you copy only participant responses for this one. So I finished pasting all the participant responses. So I click on Apply, and let's see what we're going to get. So this is what we got. You can make an adjustment to the output. You can change the colors if you want to by clicking on Theme. Let's change the color to this one. Okay, so change the color, and then you can also you change the theme, not the color. So you can go to the color and make the necessary change if you want to. You can change the font, type. You can, let's click on Oxygen, select, and so you can go to the font and change it, and also the shape. You can choose the shape that you want it to be. So maybe I want it like circle, right? So this is what can play with it and see what you're going to get. And in terms of the gap, you can play with it and see if you like what is there. So as you can see here, the bigger the font, the higher the number of times participant use those words. So you can see that participant use experience, participant use work, participant use burnout a lot of times. So younger was used less compared to other ones. Family was also used quite a lot. So this is how it can be, and then you can right click and save the image, right? So that's how you can use this software. So, and how useful is this information? So sometimes if you are presenting the findings and then there is a theme called maybe burnout at work, right? So you could use this one to help communicate or talk about the themes, right? So if you develop a word cloud and it's not making sense to you, please don't present that information, because you end up confusing your audience, right? It looks nice, but what meaning are you getting from this, right? If it has no meaning to you, it has no link to any of the themes that you have, then I advise that you should not present that information, right? So, there are a lot of options in terms of illustration. This is not the only one that you can use, right? So let's go to the next one option. So you can also create tables, right? For the table, you can use Word documents. You can create a table we call it summary table. So what is the use of summary table? Summary table is just a table to summarize what you have already talked about. Let's say you've presented all your themes, right? You talk about the themes, and then at the end, after talking about all the 4 themes that we have here, you can create a summary table that has the list of all the themes and the brief meaning of the theme, and in terms of what it represents, and also a quote from participant to support. Sometimes you can have a column for the number of significant information connected to a specific theme, right? So let's try to create a summary table. So you click on table. I think we may need about 4 columns. The first one will be theme, the second one will be meaning, the third one will be meaning, can be definition, right? Definition, or in terms of what the theme represents, and then code count. So code count is number of significant information connected to a theme, and then you will have quotes from participants. So you can say participants quotes, and you can just quote one participant in support of the theme that you have, right? So the first theme is having high workload. So you copy that and you put them in here, right? And then you type what it means, right? What does it mean? So you can say this theme represent participants' experience of working beyond the required or beyond what they can bear, right? So that it should be like a short definition of this theme, and then the code count will be 7, and then you quote participant to support. So you have to look for significant information here that you can quote to support that. So one way is to look for a place where the quotes were connected to significant information. So having numerous hours, let me see the place that we indicated having numerous hours. Yes, so for this one, having numerous hours. So you can just select this one, and this one is from participant 1. So what you can do is that you just copy that and bring it here, quotation marks, 3 dots, another dot, yes, I think, and then end it, and then P1, right, because it's participant 1. So that's how you're going to do here. So it's just a short code supporting the theme, and also we have the meaning. You do the same thing for the rest of the theme that you have. You put a theme there, you write what it represents, or the meaning, and also the number of significant information connected to the theme, and also description. This will help your readers to quickly go through your themes and what it means after they have read a long information or great amount of information about the theme and what they represent in the text. So this one is just a summary. That's called it's called summary table. So this one is going to be very useful when you are presenting your findings. After presenting the themes, you can create this table. So the next one that I want to talk about is creating chart, right, or crafting charts. So how do? You can use Excel to do that. So what you can do here is maybe you want to demonstrate the themes and then the number of significant information connected to the theme, which is the code count, right? So as we did here, I'm going to bring the themes in Excel and then the number of significant information, right, connected. So let me put this one here, and then I'm going to copy first theme. I think let me type theme here first, theme and code count, and the 7 here for the first theme, and then I'm going to copy the second theme, and then you type 2 here and make this one bold, enlarge it a little bit. So you're gonna do the next one is putting in extra effort. You copy, I'm copying from my other screen that I've opened the document, and then I type, I think it's 2, and then the next one will be, the last one will be the having less time for family. I copy that and put it here, and then I indicate 2. So if you want to create a chart, you can select it and go to insert, and then you choose the one that makes sense to you. So you can choose this one, which is the pie chart, and then you can put a label there, the percentage. If you want to indicate also the number of code in addition to the percentage, you can right click on it and go to formats, and then indicate value, so that the value will be there. So the value will be 7 here, and the percentage will be 54%, 2 and 16%, 2 here is 15%, and 2 here another 15%. It's strange that here is 16% but 15% here. I don't know why, but this is just an example. So that's how you can do it. You can even take off the percentage if you want, or maintain the percentage. It depends on how you want to communicate that information. Another option, let's delete this one. You can also go to insert and then do batch chart. What you can even do is that just click on that and then go up here to see the options there and see the one that makes sense to you, and then you choose, right? So that's how you can develop chart here to help to communicate your findings. When it comes to qualitative study, the numbers are not all, you shouldn't emphasize so much on the numbers. The most important is the meaning that you are bringing out and communicating to your audience. So the numbers will be just supporting your narration of the findings, right? So the next one is using CMap or diagrams, there are two kinds of software that you can use to draw, demonstrate the connection between the themes that you have, right? This one, another option is to use Microsoft Word features there to use. So let me go to Microsoft Word. So as I said, you just use the tool that you are familiar with, right? So let's open a new page. So you go to Insert, and then you go to Smart Art. You have many options for you. Anything that you think if you want to show a process, then you can choose from one of these to demonstrate a process, so there are so many options for you. And if you can even go online to YouTube and get some ideas about how to demonstrate relationship between themes or concepts, right, using user-friendly tools, right? So there, you just have to be creative and use what you are familiar with, and that will be helpful for you. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. So let's open the CMap. I think I've already opened CMap. So this is how the CMap looks like. You can just download it, and then you can, communicate the connection between the themes that you came up with, right? So it's easy to learn, and there might be a lot of videos online. When you go to YouTube, you can get some videos on how to use CMap. And this is also free to use. And another one that's, it's called diagram, that, I have a link on the PowerPoint you can also use. So it's also simple. You can just click on them and use, can use it, right, and communicate the connection between the themes. So you can play with it and then use it to help you develop an illustration to communicate. So these are the options that you have in terms of developing illustration. As I said, the main goal is effectively communicate your findings to your audience, and these illustrations are aiding the communication. They are not the main thing that you have to show, but they are helping you to tell your story or helping you to narrate what you found, right? So that's what I have for you.